On to today's supplement. I'm Helen, and I'm continuing the theme that David kicked off last time. I'm here to talk about who we are and what's our purpose. Psychologists say that we sum each other up pretty quickly, just because of what we look like and how we dress and how we talk. And those impressions are formed more quickly than you might think. Within just 7 seconds of meeting you, people will think they have a solid impression of who you are. Some research suggests that just 1/10 of a second is enough for us to make judgments on traits like trustworthiness. Of course, those judgments aren't necessarily true, but it is interesting and a little bit scary that they are being made in such a short period of time. I'm watching reruns of Call the Midwife at the moment, and the nuns with their distinctive habits announce their Christian faith without them even having to start a conversation. And unless we wear a prominent cross, people that we meet don't necessarily know that we're Christians. Not on first meeting, at least. I met an elderly man recently wearing a jumper that said, "Ask me to pray for you. You might be surprised." What a bold man he was. He came and sat next to me at a function, and I quickly spotted the jumper and I thought he'd be interested. Well, he did not disappoint. He had tales of visiting India and feeding hundreds of people. What a testimony. But we as individuals have different personas, don't we? We've got the workplace us, we've got the home us, and we've got so many different relationships and roles in life, and that reflects how we behave. You meet someone new for the first time, and one of those questions we often ask each other is, what do you do? As if our jobs sum us up entirely. But probably a better question is, who are you and what do you stand for? Giving us the chance, if we are brave enough, to give a proper answer, fully fleshed out. So I could provide some basics and give my name and explain where I grew up and who my family are. Maybe I could give the expected answer and explain I'm a librarian. Well, that worked for a while until the pandemic, when I did my job from home for 18 months and people were flummoxed as to how that could even work. But I could also say I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm a daughter and a sister, and describe myself in relationship to other significant people in my life. And that all helps give an idea about who we are. I could also sketch around the edges a little bit more, giving some insights into what makes me tick by saying, I'm a community lunch volunteer, I'm a member of the singing and the drama group at church. And if I was feeling particularly bold, I could give a more unusual answer and maybe talk about myself from a faith perspective and say, I'm a child of God, I'm a Christian, I'm a member at Sheldon Church. Well, that would probably scare quite a lot of folk off, and they might well try and get away from me as quickly as possible. Joking aside, I was followed home when I was a teenager by a bully, and I saw him off by telling him Jesus loved him. Not the best way to spread the gospel message, I know. At work recently, I was on a management course about how to motivate other people, and we were asked to consider what motivates us to do the things that we do in life. And people said things like having a mortgage, feeding the family, being useful, feeling valued. And we had to come up with our top 3 motivators that weren't career related. So I offered up faith as an example. And faith certainly does motivate me to do the things I do outside of my paid job. As Christians, we believe our purpose in life is to follow Jesus and live according to his teachings. So many Christians seek to identify their unique calling by seeking God's will and doing things they feel specifically called for. This might include serving others and using our talents and gifts to help those in need and spread the love of Christ. But sometimes, of course, it's the unseen things like working behind the scenes to make things run smoothly, praying for people, befriending and maybe mentoring new believers. And of course, our jobs don't necessarily have to relate to what we are called to do as Christians. After all, the Apostle Paul in the Bible, well, he had a day job as a tent maker and was a preacher too. Lots of Bible verses relate to God's purpose in us, and one that's often quoted on this subject is from Romans 8, verse 28, and it says this: "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." And then there's this one from Philippians 2, verse 13, which says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." But I suppose the big question is, how do you really know what your purpose is? In our jobs, you get a job description and a person specification listing the precise skills and the attributes needed. But unfortunately, as with many other areas of life, there's no handbook or reference manual. People often say that about becoming a parent, don't they? How do you know what to do? Is it instinct? Do you model the behaviour of people that you trust? Do you follow the patterns set by your parents? Of course, our reference manual for our faith is our Bibles. But as a new Christian, it's really helpful to get discipleship guidance from mature Christians and to ask others to support you by praying for you as you grow in faith. There are some well-known examples of courses which help to do exactly that. Safe spaces for people to ask exploratory questions about what it means to follow Jesus. The Alpha course is a good example, giving week by week structured help, usually with a meal. Alpha was started way back in 1977 by Charles Marlam in London, and it was developed under Nicky Gumbel. And in the 1990s, he developed it so far that now it runs in 140 countries and has been translated into 170 languages. So the people who worked on Alpha wonderfully affected the lives of thousands of people. Those leaders, food providers, prayer teams, befrienders, they worked out God's purpose in their lives and through them transformed the lives of so many people. So we aren't all destined for those big events, those that are seen, as particularly important, but each of us does have a crucial role to play. It doesn't necessarily stay the same. We can have a number of different roles throughout our lives. We see famous people known for one thing, like singing, take up something else like acting, and people say, oh, they're trying their hand at that now. But we humans have so many God-given talents, don't we? We just need to trust in him to work it out in our lives. Be brave enough to ask God what his purpose is in your life. Ask him to reveal it to you and equip you for that role. You could even print it on a jumper. It may even surprise you. Thanks again for watching, and see you again next time.